My name is Sean Jackson. I was asked to help moderate a couple of these special edition webinars. So if you are here and listening in and joining us, thanks for being here. Leadership Development Committee was really wanting to improve upon the communication efforts between the committee and potential applicants for the internship program. And so this is the first in hopefully a series of webinars. That's what's planned, talking to past interns and some of our current interns about the application experience and the just the whole process, and really getting down to what is the internship program, and dispelling any of those myths that may be out there. It's not just one type of person that can be an intern. They come from all different walks of life, and I hope that'll come out today. So I'm going to first introduce Megan Murtaugh. She is a past intern from 2014, but she is also the current AECT Intern Coordinator. So Megan, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having us, Sean, and I'm happy that GSA is partnering with us in order to do these special webinars to provide more information to people who are interested in becoming interns, to learn more about the program. And so what I'm going to do real quick is just go through a brief overview of the program requirements and application information, and then we'll get into some questions and answers with our intern panel that we have with us today. And additional information, more than what I'm providing, is available on the AECT Intern page, which is at aect.org/intern program. So you can find all of this information in further detail there if you want to read more information about the program. So we'll go ahead and get started. There are 3 different internship programs that fall under leadership through AECT. We have the Carl F. Strobin and Lee W. Cochran internships, which are managed. The selection process is managed by the AECT Intern Coordinator. So this year I will be managing the selection of those 2 awards. And then the 3rd program that we have is the Jenny Johnson internship. That's offered in even years, and so that is being offered this year in 2018, and that selection process is managed by the International Division. And so there's more information about the Jenny Johnson internship, the Lee Cochran internship, and the Carl Strobin internship, all on the AECT Intern page. Some highlights that I could mention to you about the internship program is that you'll be featured prominently throughout the AECT International Conference, which will be held in Kansas City, Missouri this year. And you would have background access to key sessions and meetings, and be able to meet with leaders in our field and within AECT. You would also be able to grow your leadership skills through our mentoring program, where you're matched with a leader that works with you towards a personal goal. And we're fortunate enough today, we actually have a intern and mentor both on our panel today. So maybe they can talk at some point a little bit about their experience in those roles. That would be great as well. Internship eligibility. This program is open to graduate students and also new professionals within the first 3 years of joining the IDT profession. So anyone who's a graduate student or a new professional and meets other criteria that I'll be going over in just a minute are welcome to apply for the internship program. Some of the stuff that is considered, or the criteria that is considered by the selection committee, is your service in a variety of activities, evidence that you have a commitment to AECT and its programs, your emerging leadership in the field of instructional design and technology, as well as AECT, your professionalism, and that you have goals and interests that are aligned with the internship program objectives. The things that you also need to have as part of your packet are candidate statements. There are actually 5 different questions that you need to answer, and those are available on the intern website so that you can prepare ahead of time. And you also need to provide a current CV or resume, as well as identify a sponsor who would submit a letter in support of your internship application. Let me tell you a little bit more about sponsors. Sponsors need to be a current AECT member, and they may only support or sponsor one applicant. This actually is one of the main reasons why applications will be considered incomplete, is if a sponsor submits multiple letters for more than one applicant, and that would disqualify those applicants from being considered if the sponsor has chosen to submit letters for more than one person. So you need to make sure that the sponsor you select and identify and ask to write a letter for you is only writing you a letter and not other applicants. In the past, I've made sure, like last year, there were a couple of times that this happened, and I made sure to contact the applicants right away to let them know there was a conflict and that the sponsor had been selected by more than one applicant. And in most cases, those applicants were able to find another sponsor and get their application complete. But if you wait to the last minute to apply, it makes it really difficult to find another sponsor to replace the one that you've already identified. You also want to make sure that your sponsor is knowledgeable about you and can talk about your involvement in AECT and other leadership activities, that it's someone that you have developed a rapport with and that they know about you and what you're doing. So that would strengthen your application by having that. Let's see. So as I said, that's what your application packet contains, and your sponsor information. And here are the important dates that you need to keep in mind. Our application process will open on April 2nd, 2018, and it will close on June 4th, 2018. So all online applications need to be submitted by June 4th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time in order for your application to be considered. So that would include your your candidate statements, your CV and resume, and your sponsor letter. All of that has to be submitted by June 4th. And then the selection of the intern class will be announced around July 26th. That's usually done at the summer leadership meeting. And our conference this year, like I said earlier, is in Kansas City, Missouri. And the dates for the convention are October 21st, 27th. And anyone who is selected as an intern is expected to attend the conference in Kansas City during all of those dates, October 21st to the 27th. The conference runs a little bit shorter than that, but interns come in earlier to help with preparation. So that is pretty much the highlights and overall information of the program in a nutshell. Try to keep it as concise as possible. So we'll take questions a little bit further on, but what I'd like right now to do is to turn it back over to Sean and have him go ahead and present our first question for the intern panel. I'm gonna go back and put on the slide that has the people who are participating today, so you'll know who's with us. We have Jon Anderle from University of Wyoming. He's class of 2017 intern. We have Muhterem Dindar, who is in the class of 2014, and Jill Stefaniak from the class of 2013. Jon?
All right. Thank you, Megan, for that overview. And so, interns, past interns, our first question is, how did you begin your leadership quest in AECT? That's a big question that a lot of people And I know I didn't when I first came to my conference. I didn't know exactly how to get involved. And so I asked people who knew. And so you guys seem to be the experts. You went through the process of getting involved and showing how you got involved. So how did you do that?
I can start. I always say I got involved because I was forced to by my advisor. My first AECT conference was 2010, and I was attending. I was a doctoral student at Wayne State University. And while I was working full time, while I was going for my PhD, I knew that I wanted to make the transition into a faculty position upon graduation. And so when I was talking with my advisor, she had mentioned to me to go to when we were at AECT. She was emphasizing the importance of networking, not just for getting involved within the organization, but to get my name out there so that when the time came and I was applying for jobs, hopefully someone might recognize my name from somewhere at AECT, just to kind of help as you're going through that process. And so what I did was she told me to get involved, and I'm, for those of you that might know me, I'm very much an introvert by nature. So I was totally panicking and stuff and wondering, how do you do that? I was very fortunate. I reached out to Ike Che at the time from the University of Georgia. He was on the D&D division, and he was overseeing the design and development showcase. And so I emailed him and just asked him, was there any way he might need any help, over the next year working on the showcase? And he replied back and said, absolutely. So the following conference, I was running around helping them get set up and getting supplies and everything else. And that kind of got me more acclimated with the D&D division as I was moving forward. So at the same time, my advisor had also reached out to someone who was chairing the Pacificor competition back when it was called the Pacificor case competition. And I got involved on that committee as well. So I think sometimes we get afraid when we're not familiar with the organization, and we're afraid to ask. It is so easy to get involved in a whole bunch of different ways at AECT. It truly is. I know a lot of people will say it's like a family atmosphere. It really is. It's probably one of the most warm and opening organizations I've been a member of. And so my recommendation for you all would be, don't be afraid to ask. Just reach out, because I've yet to see anyone turn anyone down at AECT, myself and friends included. And there's a lot of work to be done. People are looking for volunteers. So even just emailing someone and saying, I want to get involved, do you have any ideas for how? Usually someone's able to put you in touch with someone.
Very similar story for me. I had the pleasure of having a former intern as my initial chair before she jumped ship from the University of Wyoming and went to the University of Idaho, Tanya Doucet. And Tanya has become very well known within the organization. And it was presented to me when I initially started my program that not only are you required to join AECT, but you're expected to participate and to get involved in leadership activities. And she specifically directed me to the Graduate Student Assembly. I reached out to Jason Ingerman, who had just taken over as the president of the GSA, and asked him about involvement. And he encouraged me to actually run for president, just based on discussions that we had. And I was elected president just after a few months of being in the organization. And it's just like Jill said, it's a matter of asking, and you'll find multiple opportunities. And whatever interest you have within the organization, there are opportunities within that specific division. The GSA is a great opportunity to start, and if you aren't already involved, and you can talk to representatives from all the different divisions and a lot of the different committees that are around, and really find out where maybe there's a need for someone with your specific skill set, and opportunities to really chomp in and take some advantage of some leadership opportunities. And I can tell you, Megan is absolutely correct that past leadership, not only outside of the organization, if you include civic leadership, where you volunteered with committees in your own hometowns or home states, as well as those leadership positions within the organization, are extremely important in showing your interest in the internship program.
Well, I was the Jenny Johnson intern, which means an internship given to the non-US citizens. My story with the internship was a bit like, you know, you go to Las Vegas for the first time in your life and you hit the jackpot. So in 2013, I attended the conference with my supervisor, and when I went to the conference venue, there was this table and there were the photos of 3 young people there, and I wondered, like, they don't look like the gurus in our field or the accomplished scholars I know, at least, who these people are. And they said that, okay, these are the interns, and I wondered, like, what is it to be an intern in a conference like this? And I managed to meet some friends there who were the interns of 2013. Frat was one of them, I guess, and I asked them about the internship experiences and the stuff, and I thought, like, maybe I should give it a try for the next year. And since I was not living in the US, I didn't have much chance to have contact with the AECT family there, actually, but luckily my supervisor was a member of the AECT organization. That's how I got involved, actually, with the internship program. And the other year in 2014, I applied and luckily got the internship.
All right, thank you all. So you kind of touched on question number 2. Do you have any tips for those who desire to be AECT leaders? And I'm just going to summarize what I kind of took away from the 3 of you. You said, just ask, you know, ask somebody, how do I do this? What do you need? And don't be so intimidated by the people who are at the conference, because I know what happened to me at last year at my first conference. I'm like, oh my gosh, I read that person's, you know, dissertation, or I read an article they wrote. They're way smarter than I am. Well, that's still true. They're smarter than me, but you can still talk to them. And so I thought that was really a good tip. Is there anything specifically that you want to add to address that question? Any specific tips for people who desire to be AECT leaders?
I think reaching out to prior interns and asking them, you know, what their experience was with that application process, I think would be helpful. I think one of the challenges is that I think we struggle with as an organization. We really only see some of the larger, more long-term volunteer opportunities coming out, such as, like, we know we've got elections going on, and so we're seeing people running for those positions. But if you attend the general meetings at the conference for the individual divisions, oftentimes they're talking about work that needs to get done. So there's opportunities to get involved with those short-term volunteer opportunities, or even contacting those division officers and asking, is there anything that you could help with as a member? We don't do a good job of advertising those short-term opportunities, but they exist. So I would recommend reaching out that way too. You want to be able to kind of start establishing and being able to showcase what you're currently doing, and then also showing that you've got the potential for leadership down the road. So I think those short-term opportunities could be a great way for you to add some of those items to your application.
And I would second that, the recommendation, certainly. If you're applying to be an intern and you don't have any of that leadership experience, especially within AECT, then you're going to be really pushing against the grain. The true expectation is that you've already brought some past experience in, and really being an intern isn't about learning to be a leader, it's learning how to be a better leader. And those service opportunities that you may have prior to applying are going to be critically important in the selection process.
In terms of Jenny Johnson internship, if the intern is coming out of US, one of the challenges is finding the reference letters, actually. The only person I knew was my supervisor, who was a member of the AECT organization. But I had 2 reference letters. But luckily in 2013 conference, the year before I was the intern, I approached some professors, US professors, during the conference time, and I discussed my thesis and my future projects and the stuff, and we managed to create a bond between us, and I was continuously emailing them and keeping in touch with my studies, and also in terms of the AECT internship, and I managed to get reference letters from one of the professors actually I met during my previous conference, AECT conference. In that sense, I would definitely suggest the international candidates to participate the AECT conferences as much as possible before applying, and try to form sort of a network, even if it is quite limited in that sense.
All right, thank you all. Great and great information for anybody who wants to be an intern. We have a question on the chat from Lucas asking about the process, and specifically about international students. Do they apply specifically just to the Jenny Johnson internship program, or does the committee decide where they go? I think there might be some confusion about exactly how that pans out. So that might be a better question for Megan or from.
I hear you. Okay. You qualify for the Strobin or the Cochrane based on being a graduate student. That one doesn't, those two internships don't have a stipulation on whether or not you're a US citizen or not. It's just whether or not you're a graduate student or a new professional within the first 3 years. The only one that has a stipulation about being a non-US citizen is the Jenny Johnson internship. So if you're an international student, then you could apply to either one. I hope that answered that question. If not, let me know and I'll try to clarify a little bit more.
But a tip for the friends is that definitely the Cochrane and the Strobin internship is for the candidates who have kind of more experience with the AECT organization, who had participated their events and that kind of thing. But for the Jenny Johnson, it's mostly like you are coming from abroad. In that sense, if you haven't participated much in the AECT organization events, I would suggest you to apply to the Jenny Johnson internship.
It's a good suggestion.
Okay, very, very good. Okay, so now question number 3 deals with specifically the responsibilities during the convention week. And so the question is convention week really as busy as everyone says it is? Okay, I see some smirks right there. So tell us about convention week and what the responsibilities might entail.
I'll jump in first, and I think a lot of it depends on where you get your energy. For me, convention week was hectic. I won't say truly busy, but we had activities scheduled essentially from 7 o'clock every morning until sometimes past 9 o'clock in the evening. I get my energy from being around people and from networking, and I know for other people that can be exhausting. So for me, the entire week was very energizing. I was almost disappointed when the days ended, and especially at the end when it was time to go home, because I got so much from the experience with all the different networking opportunities. And having that medal that you get to wear around is simply your all access pass to walk into any meeting or any presentation, and to have people come up and talk to you. I just really fed off of that. So it's very fully scheduled, but it really depends on what you use to get your energy.
Yeah, for me, it was quite busy as well, but it's the most precious busy times in my life, I could say. The businesses, yeah, definitely you attend almost all the board meetings, and you meet lots of new professors, and all the events you have to be present. In that sense, it's quite busy, but I found it actually quite refreshing and fun. So I never felt like, oh, I'm gonna die, I'm very tired. It was always very fun, and every new event you attend was interesting.
Anything to add, Jill?
No, I'm just going to second what they did. I mean, it's a huge, as John was mentioning, it's a huge time commitment throughout the week, but it's an exciting time as well. And you're exposed to so many different things that you're not looking at it like, oh my gosh, they've got me scheduled for 5 more things. You're just getting so much more exposure to how things run and function at the conference and at the organization as a whole. So it's a very informative time.
All right, awesome. Now, a couple of questions about the entirety of the program. So the very first one is, what was the most valuable part of the internship for you?
For me, it was being paired up with a mentor. So when I was an intern, I was assigned, Kay Persicati was assigned as my mentor. And she's continued to mentor me over the years. And while she's mentored me on several things over the years, what I'm most appreciative of with that conference is that she really pushed me out of my shell and out of my comfort zone. And I mean that in a good way. The year I was an intern was the same year she was running to be president for AECT. And so she was making a point to go to all the different divisions and meeting with a lot of individuals within the organization to let them know what her goals were for running and for her candidacy. And she brought me along for the rides. I didn't really have a choice. And so what was so great about it, though, was she exposed me to so many different people and operations within the organization that I might not have necessarily sought out myself. And so from a networking standpoint, it was just a great experience to get a better understanding of how AECT functions, to meet other individuals, and to really, I think I've become a little bit more comfortable with just going in and asking for things now at different conferences. And so I'm really indebted to her for that, more from that social development side of things as well.
And I will dovetail on to Jill's comments, because not only is Jill my mentor that was assigned at the 2017 convention, but Kay Persicati is actually my chair and has also been an informal mentor. So I really get the best of both worlds from the both of them. And certainly I won't steal Jill's answer that the mentoring was the best part. So I'll say that the networking that's afforded you as the internship certainly ranks up there with me as well.
Funny, it's a bit the advertisement session for Kay, but she was also my mentor. Yeah, it was amazing to meet her and to be her mentee. For me, the most valuable part was that, honestly, before the AECT, I didn't have the experience of being part of an organization which has very deep roots, like very historical roots. Like when I attended those meetings and met with all those members who's running the AECT actually behind the doors, I was amazed with the friendship and the family-like environment among them. And it's something beyond the academia, actually, beyond the papers you publish or the projects you run together. It was phenomenal for me, and it was a unique experience in that sense. That was the most valuable thing for me. And I learned a lot about like how you should form a community. That taught me a lot, that experience.
Right. Now, just picking up on that same kind of line, what was the most challenging parts of the internship program for you?
For me, it was having a roommate who was having some fairly serious health issues, and having to draw on some of my past experiences in public safety to really get Megan involved and try to cross that line between being a friend, almost like a dad, to try to get that person to seek some attention, and but also trying to be a colleague and not take any of those experiences away. So it was kind of a unique situation for me, but with Megan's help, we certainly worked through it.
Okay, for me, the most challenging experience is that actually there is this Socratic seminar during the ACT, which is the Jenny Johnson intern faces like around a dozen professors in the ACT committee, and you have to come up with a question, and then the discussion evolves around that question. Unfortunately, I didn't know about the Socratic seminar. So in the morning when I was washing my face in a bathroom, the Harvard professor, I forgot his name now.
Is it Bob? Bob?
Yeah, exactly. He just approached me and said, like, "Are you ready for the Socratic seminar?" I said, "What Socratic seminar?" He said, "Okay, there'll be the professors waiting you. You'll sit in front of them and you'll ask a question and you'll discuss." And I said, "What?" And I just had like 15 minutes to come up with a question. That was a stressful moment for me actually, but I managed to come up with a question, and then definitely the discussions and all the talks, they went all well, and it was an amazing experience. But at the beginning, it was quite challenging for me, just knowing it or learning it 15 minutes prior to the session.
I think for me, the biggest challenge was just dealing with the scheduling and trying to find time to eat. I think I ate so many power bars and protein bars because half the time you were running from one thing to the next. But I think that was the biggest challenge, was just fitting everything in, knowing where you were going next. So it was just really important to stay organized throughout the whole week.
Well, I'm sorry about those challenges. But they're all very unique challenges, and they just show just another side of what it means to be an intern. And so, kind of our final question is really, what advice? And all of this has been advice to people, but what is the one thing that you would tell anyone who says, "I want to apply to be an intern"? If you could only tell them one thing, what would that be?
Well, I would say be bold and apply. That's how I did actually, and it worked. And the first step is like being committed, that putting it into your mind that, okay, I will try my chance. And beyond the chance, of course, you should have specific qualifications and past experiences. But trust in yourself and be brave to take that first step. Then things will come out.
I would say just, not just rushing the application. I wouldn't do it the night before it's due. I think it's due April 2nd, so I wouldn't be, rushing to do it on April 1st. But really taking some time to sit through like goal setting. There's a section on that application where they're going to ask you what are your career plans, or what are your professional development aspirations. And so really thinking about what you'd like your role to be in AECT, or thinking like 5 years from now, where would you like to be? And then kind of just outlining what path do you want to take to get to that goal. I think that's really important. And I think that's something that, just in talking with other committee members on the coordinating the internships, that's something that is looked at and reviewed.
And I would certainly endorse both of what Muhterem and Jill have said. But I would also say that if you aren't already involved in AECT, get involved. That's really going to help when it comes time to submit the application, and may give you that opportunity to meet that one AECT member who will support your application and write the interest letter for you. So now's the time to start thinking about getting that application, now's the time to start taking action, not just thinking about it.
I have a suggestion. One of the suggestions I have is apply, even if you don't think you're qualified, because you will be able to get feedback from me about your application if you're interested in knowing, areas that you can improve upon for the next year. When I applied to be an intern, I didn't get it the first time. And so I contacted the intern coordinator at the time to find out what I could do to improve my application the following year. And so then the second time that I applied is when I actually was selected as an intern. And when I go back and look at my application from that first year to the second year, my application was completely different. I had gotten so much more involved in the organization between that first application and the second application. And so it really made a huge difference. But, you know, going through the process of applying and figuring out and taking stock and kind of evaluating where you are and what you've been doing is definitely beneficial for you as personal growth. You can decide, you know, where you are right now, where you want to be, and then make yourself a plan. And I think Jill had mentioned that before about thinking about where you want to be in 5 years. Or where you want to be in 2 years, you know, even go shorter than that, where, you know, what are you doing right now and what can you do over the next year or two that will strengthen your leadership skills. And another thing I wanted to mention too is that you don't necessarily have to hold a specific position within a division in order to be considered a leader. You can be involved in a committee, or you can be involved in a division and you're working on a special project and you're the lead person on that project and you're organizing it. That's showing leadership as well. So don't think that if you haven't had a position that you can't apply. You know, make sure that you talk about anything that you've been a part of. If you volunteered at the conference, if there was something specific that you did that was above and beyond what was asked of the regular volunteers, make sure you highlight that in your application. Really think about things that, you know, would highlight you as a candidate that is above and beyond what other people are doing in the organization.
And those were a couple of things that I was going to share that my committee chair, who is a big member of AECT, Dr. Curry from Morehead State University, he said, you're going to apply this year, which was last year. You're going to apply and you're not going to get it. And we're just going to take your feedback and we're going to make your entire application better this next time. And the feedback that I got was, you need to get more involved in AECT. You need to have better focus in your application of actually saying, you know, your plans and how you're a leader and how you've exhibited that for the organization. And so the feedback was invaluable. And I do hold an office for GSA, but even before that, I was sitting in on SMT meetings and their monthly meetings, but I held no office, but I helped with anything they needed. I helped them at the convention, and so I'm trying to get more involved. But that's one thing that my current mentor wanted me to do, and so that's what I'm trying to do. So I think I'll apply again, but I don't know if I'll get it. So if you're out there and you're listening, take this advice and get more involved, volunteer with a committee, and it'll make your application that much better. We want to thank everybody for either tuning in with us during this webinar or following up with this remotely. We do have several more webinars going on, so if you didn't get to join in live, you can definitely check out our Facebook page and look at those. Just reminding you of the application timeline. Application timeline, they start accepting applications April 2nd. It closes June 4th, and then the selection is going to be announced in Kansas City during the summer leadership. But before we stop the recording, anybody who is tuned in right now, do we have any other questions? You can either put them in the chat window or just unmute yourself and just shout one out. Anything that we haven't covered or anything that you may really need to know before you start getting this application going.
Okay, I have a question. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can, Maggie.
Okay, so I am graduate with my master 2015, And right now, I'm not doing my PhD, and I'm working full-time at Metro Technology Center in Oklahoma. And my title is Instructional Design Specialist. So the thing I'm working on is relevant to AECT, and I've been there to the conference in Florida. That's how I met Megan. And so my question is, before this webinar, to be honest with you, I do not know anything about this. I just saw Megan invite me, and I said, well, I'm excited about learn more about this. So now you guys get me really excited. So my question for you is, am I qualified? I mean, I know I'm not gonna get it based on all your previous experience. So my question for you is, if I want to get involved, so what is should I apply this internship, or should I be volunteer, or how do I get involved in this? This is my first step. My first step is listening to this webinar and listening to your experience. So my question is, how do I get involved as a person who's not a graduate student anymore, but working in the field?
You would still be considered a new professional because you're still within that 3-year window. I would say you never know who you're going to be compared with. That's another thing about the internship selection process is every year the applicant pool changes. So people that you were compared to the first year you applied are not necessarily the people you're compared to the second year you apply, if you're applying multiple times.
Okay.
So I would say apply. Even if you don't think you're going to get it, still apply.
Okay. Okay, I will think about it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or anything, any other responses to Maggie's question? Well, again, thanks for joining us, and thank you for your questions, either through the chat window or just shouting one out. Again, from 6 to 7 this evening, we have another webinar going on with a new group of past interns or current interns. So we'll try to keep you updated. And remember, the conference is in Kansas City, Missouri this year, October 21st to the 27th. We, again, thank you for joining us on this very first webinar for the internship program. So thanks very much for being here.
Be sure to tune in and join us as our special edition webinar series of dealing with the internship program continues.